Hello everyone, welcome to the family. So, my name is Julien. I'm a growth hacker here for maybe a year now, and I have a simple mission. It's to help our startup to grow. And in 1 year, I've learned a lot of things, many things, and I'm here to share them with you and to help you, in your turn, grow your startup. So, just before we start, there is always something I like to do. When I'm in a room and someone very smart, with a lot of experience just came, there is a simple question I always ask him. What would you say to yourself 20 years ago? What would be the advice? And by asking him this question, I always got tremendous insight. For instance, 3 years ago, I asked that question to a guy, and he told me, do that. Because I know you're young, you're ambitious, and you will try to do that. And it will be even so difficult to do that you will fail. So start small. And it helped me in my execution to be less ambitious and start very small. That's important. For instance, 1 week ago, I just met one guy, and he told me, in life, you have to polarize. You have to have people who hate you and people who love you. If you don't have that, you don't exist. That's simple. So don't be afraid of polarization. And if you are in a situation and people hate you and people like you, don't be afraid, and it's time for champagne. So here, I would like to take only 30 seconds, and if you could turn to the person next to you and ask him this question, that would be great. Thank you. So, let's talk about the growth process. Napoleon said one time, war is 90% of information. And I agree with that, because information helps you take great decision. And sometimes one simple piece of information can make all the difference. And that is why I highly believe that you have to have a growth process from day one in your startup. Honestly, I will show you a lot of tools. If I could have known all of them 3 years ago, the result would have been very different, and I would have been very fast in my execution. So, war is 90% of information. And that is why you have to have, from day one, analytical systems in your startup to analyze and assess what is happening inside your product. For instance, there are three which are very important: Mixpanel, Google Analytics, and Hotjar. If you don't track what's happening inside your product from day one, it's going to be very hard to grow. And I would like to really take our time on this slide, because that's very important. And if you take the time to understand how startups grow today, you will see that there is always 3 phases. The first phase is about getting traction. It's about finding if what you are doing provides value to someone. And don't forget, people bid with their time and their money. So you have to find out that. And to do that, you have to conduct a lot of experiments, a lot of things, and you have to do a lot of things that don't scale. For instance, you may find that you have some people inside the Facebook group that may be interested by what you are doing. One experiment will be to guess their email address and send them an email, and just check if they are interested, and if they go on your product, and if they pay, or if they invest time on it. It's about doing a lot of experiments on and on in order to find if what you're doing provides value to someone. Once you find out that what you are doing is important to some people, and you have a product market fit for someone, you move to what I call a transition phase. And the aim is simple. You have to find out a growth equation. Because at the end of the day, there is only 5 scalable acquisition channels. And it's a growth phase. And you have to find out how you can play in one of them. It's about SEO, search engines, social, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, paid advertising, Facebook ads, AdWords, display networks, sales. For instance, it's very common in B2B to grow with a sales force. Groupon have more than there are a lot of salesmen. Same thing with Salesforce, and you are growing with a lot with the Salesforce. And word of mouth. It's difficult to assess, but when you have a product market fit, there is always a strong word of mouth. So, at the beginning, you are the traction phase, and you have to have a rigorous growth process in order to run a lot of experiments and in order to reach product market fit. So, let's take, for instance, Twitter. Twitter, at the beginning, was running 1 experiment per week. When they started to run with a growth team inside their startup more experiments, they grew faster. Because, remember, WAR is 19% of information. And the aim is to learn fast in order to take the good decision and in order to find out the experiments that works and to double down on them. And for that, you have to do a lot of things manually. I know it's tempting to automate things, but don't try to automate a process if you didn't assess the efficiency before. You have to find if it's very efficient first by doing things manually, and then, if it's efficient, you automate it. And that's very, very important at the beginning. It's easier to find further growth inside something that's working than to start again in something you don't know that if it's going to work. So try to find out what's working and double down on them. If retargeting is efficient for you, do more. If emailing is efficient for you, optimize and do more. There's a lot of things that you can optimize before switching to something new. Many people may ask me, yes, but when can I know that, yes, I'm in a product market fit stage? That's very simple. At the end of the day, product market fit is about 3 things. Are they understanding what you're doing? And the job of a growth hacker is it's about 2 things. Make people find the value of what you're doing and reduce the friction to the value. It's about highlighting the value and reducing the friction. So you have to iterate on your product and make it very clear in order to make you user understand what you are doing. The second thing, it's about, are they using your product? Are they bidding with their time, or are they bidding with their money? If you have that, you know that you are on something. And of course, the last thing that's very typical of a product market fit is about sharing. Do people share on social network? Do people talk about your product to their friends, to their coworkers? If you have that, you're great. And of course, about understanding the value, I have a great example for that. Every entrepreneur has to know what Zapier is. Zapier is about connecting APIs all together. It's about saving time and do things faster. So, okay. Zapier is about connecting API. Great. How can it help me? Don't assume that people understand what you are doing and how they can use it for their own case. You have to help them to understand that. You have to give them the value, but the benefit for them, and also how they can how they can use it in their day-to-day operation. And that is why Zapier built a Zap book. And the Zap book is simple. It's about discovering use cases and all the simple things you can do with Zapier for marketing, operation, project management, sales, and small businesses. And when you register on Zapier, they try to find good Zap you can do with their product, and they help you to do that. Because it's this way that you can increase retention and that you can activate your user to spend more time and to spend more money on your product. So help them understand and find the value. And emailing is great for that. Don't misunderstanding emailing. That's very important. Emailing is so efficient. I mean, there is a lot of tricks to guess someone's email address. You can Google that. You will find many tricks. And mailing is very powerful. Every day I see it with a lot of startups, and use that. Another thing, be careful, because it's very easy to waste money when you haven't reached product market fit. You may think that, so don't adopt the zero expense strategy if it's not relevant for your startup. Advertising is great, even at the traction phase. But there is a difference between putting $1 million in Facebook ads and putting $10 to assess if an audience is reacting positively to what you're doing. So there is two ways of doing ads. Iterative ads, traction phase. It's about finding if this audience on Facebook, for instance, converts on your website, and scale advertising. And scale advertising, it's of course when you're trying to grow, and when you have found that when I put €1 somewhere, I get 2. An investor likes that, of course. That's your growth equation. Dating websites have a growth equations that's very complicated. They know that if they put €1 on Facebook, they got 2 users, so these users give them €3, so they know if it's efficient and if they have a return on investment. So if you don't have product market fit, don't try to do things in the growth phase. Try to run a lot of experiments, to do a lot of things that don't scale, in order to find where the value is, for who, and then you can move, when you have reached product market fit, to something more aggressive in other networks. And you have to find out a growth equation. But one important thing is to understand that every experiment may be different among different segments of users. For instance, there was a website called Circle of Friends. And Circle of Friends was a website, a social network. And what happened is that the most active users were moms. So, all the experiments that were conducted were very efficient on a certain segment of users. Don't treat the users the same. An experiment may be very efficient on someone and not too much on other people. And you have to understand that. And that is why now it's Circle of Moms. And they pivot. So don't treat the users the same. And when you run an experiment, be very careful to to have a precise way of seeing things. And of course, the highest form of traction is when people are paying. Don't think that you have reached product market fit if you just have people saying, yes, I will pay someday. What you're doing is very cool. I will pay someday. That's not something that you should rely on. You have to, if you can make them pay and pre-order something, that's very a stronger sign of success than making them just do something like that. This point is very, very important. Another attribute of a product market fit is about the way people talk on your support, on your customer support. When they got angry, when they are very active on your support, making, yes, this feature is buggy, I need it, or yes, this feature doesn't work, please fix it. When they start to be very active and send a lot of requests, you are on something. So customer support is something that co-founders should do every single day, because that's very important to understand if you are at the product market fit phase. And you can use something like Intercom. It's a great tool. It allows you to have a simple chat. With a single line of code. And there are some hacks that you can do. Okay, so you have a simple chat. And you can talk with users when they have problems. And one important thing is that you can trigger this chat at specific time. Let's say, for instance, that someone is trying to pay. Okay? And for some reason, something wrong happened. That's a typical moment when you should trigger the chat and say something like, hey, do you have a problem? I can help you. Or if you find someone that is spending a lot of times on your pricing page and hesitate to pay, you could trigger the chat and offer him a coupon. That would be a way to make him, to encourage him to do an action. So chat systems are very important, and if you start to get a lot of people sending requests, you're on something. But the topic of the day is about planning a growth process. And what great tools I use is Canvas. So I will show you a few things about Canvas, and I will tell you then how you can register on Canvas. So it's a brand new tool. It's in beta right now. And I will show you some cool things you can do. So here is our process at TheFamily. So we have a lot of experiments. Okay? You can see that, for instance, we have an experiment on YouTube. Okay? Here, every single growth hacker at TheFamily post their experimental ideas here. So I will add a simple ID. Okay? And I will submit the form. And here it is. I will provide a simple description to explain how I'm going to conduct this experiment. And I will say if it's about acquisition, activation, referral, retention, or if it's about to increase revenue, or if it's an experiment about revenue. So in your case, it's about acquisition. And then, that's a tricky part, but that's very important. It's about providing, by instinct, a rating, so about the impact. I will say that this experiment, it's an impact of 8, okay? You will be it will be easier to run this field when you are going to have a lot of experiments, because the aim is to prioritize, and a confidence of 5, and ease to run of 10, because it's very easy to run. And I will save. And then you can see that here I have a simple rank of 7.7. And this rate is very important because it helped me to prioritize my experiment. And here you can see that I should run this one first, this one then, and then. And it helps you find what experiment you should run first. Then you click on it, and you test this ID. And remember, Twitter grew faster by running a lot of experiments on and on. And my hypothesis is that it's going to increase, I don't know, retention by 5% among MailChimp fans. And I will test it. And the second tab here is a way of seeing your experiments. So here, we have all our experiments up next. This one was the one I submitted 2 minutes ago. You have the active experiments, and you have, of course, the experiments that are ready to analyze, because now you have the data to find out if it's efficient. And you can drag and drop every single experiment. Okay? And when something is ready, let's say, for instance, this one, up, I can add some test results. So the lessons, here it asked me the lessons. So I will say, this one is help me grow retention among MailChimp users by 50%. And I will say here, yes, it worked. And you can also say if it didn't work or it's inconclusive. And I will move it to the knowledge base. And the knowledge base here is where you have all your experiments that work, all your experiments that didn't work, and all the experiments that were inconclusive, meaning the data don't reveal something that's game changer. It works, but just a little. We should forget about it. And for instance, so for my blog, I had one here. So here you should see experiments as a document. So here is when you hit the front page of GrowthHackers.com. So GrowthHackers.com is a website where you can find a lot of articles about growth. And one of my articles hit the front page and the front position. So I made an experiment for that. And the aim was the hypothesis was to get 1,000 unique visitors by being at the first place for 24 hours, okay? The idea was to get people to submit my article on GrowthHackers, and I got 5,000 unique visitors and 30 new email addresses. So that's not that's not what I've planned, but it's efficient to. And you can attach attachment, so you can see if for later, when another growth hacker is going to join your team, if the impact this experiment have, and if he should focus on it. And that is why it's very important to have a growth process from day one, and to start to take the habit to write experiments on and on and on, in order to, when someone is joining your team, it can quickly find out what's worked and what didn't work in order to focus on what worked. Because at the end of the day, it's always about information. So you have 4 tabs. You have the tab about the IDs. It's what we call the backlog. When you have an ID, you put it on your backlog. It helps you to keep track of the experiment to conduct. And the second tab is about have a rigorous way to plan and to see what experiments are running. The last tab is a knowledge base. So it's when you can see what worked and what didn't work. And the tab I didn't talk was dashboard, where you can see, for instance, on TheFamily. So we are Monday, so it was reset, but you can see all the experiments you have run this week, and we also have a growth process every Monday at 11 with the growth team in order to prioritize the experiments of the week. And one cool thing is that you can integrate all these things with Slack. So you click on integration, you click on Slack, and you can provide a URL. And that's cool because everyone in the team, for instance, can see. Here you can see that I just create a card, coup d'état test, and I just move the card to test backlog, and it helps everyone to see what's working and what experiments you are running. So that's a cool thing. And to request an invite, and I hope everyone will use that because that's very, very important. Every startup at TheFamily, we are going to make them use that. You can request an invite at canvas.growthhackers.com, and you should be accepted in 3 days. And of course, everyone at the company should have access to the backlog. IDs can come from anywhere. For instance, 2 weeks ago, one designer had an ID, we put it on the backlog. Because he has his way of seeing things, and he can see, when he's working on an interface, he can see, yes, here we have friction, we should do something. So we run an experiment, and we try to understand if it's works then. And you have to assess how your experiment is performing among different segments of users. That's very important. If your experiment is very efficient on moms, don't say that your experiment failed. Maybe you are on something. And Mixpanel can help you understand all this. And a few last things. I highly recommend to have a spreadsheet with all your data, your most important KPI, and to track your weekly growth rate. It's important to do that because it helps you find if you're moving forward or backward, and if you are succeeding. And I like to organize that by acquisition, retention, and referral. And here we have one for YouTube. And it's better to track by weekly than monthly. It helps you reset the counter every week. And of course, it must be the founder job. Send this KPI to your team every Sunday. Send an email to your team and saying, yes, we grew by 5% this week for subscriber. We got 3 new clients from Minnesota this week, so we should focus on Minnesota right now. And really send an email every week about your data, your KPI, in order to keep people on track. 5 metrics I recommend to look at. The first one is about day one retention. It's simple. If you don't have retention for day one, maybe people, it's depending on the product, but maybe people aren't understanding what you're doing. Day 7 retention. It's about finding if you have created an habit with certain people, average revenue per user, and average revenue per paying user. It's about finding out how much people pay per user in order to find out how much can I put on the table to acquire them, and the lifetime value. If you have a lifetime value of 5 days, it means that every 5 days you have to get new users, otherwise your product will be empty. And I highly encourage to have routines. Take 20 minutes every day to look at your analytics system, to talk on your customer support and be very reactive on that in order to understand where the value is, where the friction is, and if my product is interesting for certain segment of users. So, what you should do after this talk is to first register on Canvas, start a spreadsheet with your most important KPIs. Don't take too much of KPIs. Take the most important ones. Compound your weekly growth rate. So I haven't talked about that, but it's about finding how much % per week you're growing. Send these metrics to all your team every Sunday by email. It's great. And it works to keep people up to date. And use Canvas to organize your experiment, because you have to find out where should I focus my effort. And please don't delegate your growth. That's very important. Take responsibility. If you can't grow your startup, that's unfortunate, but no one will do it at your place. So don't try to look at agencies, growth agencies, or freelance growth hackers to do something for you. You have to do it by yourself. That's the most important thing in a startup. It's about growth. So don't delegate your growth. Thank you. Do you have some question?
When you're talking about product market fit, do you think finding product market fit by surveys, that's more like Net Promoter Score or anything else, versus actual engagement data that you find, which do you think is better?
So like the question is about, people lie, but action don't lie. So it's easier to believe and trust someone who's doing something, who did that is words. So I won't take anything to chance. I don't believe in chance, so you have to look at your analytical dashboard and see where the retention is, and it doesn't lie.
Yeah, but I guess in the beginning phase, as you said, in the traction phase, the number of people that land onto your website is quite low, right? And as opposed to the next phase. So then you wouldn't be able to gauge the engagement data as much. As for example, if you wanted to measure retention, you could ask for the NPS survey in the beginning, at the first phase of traction, rather than the next phase, which is where you can actually have enough data to measure whether it's happening.
You can have some data at the beginning to understand if you have reached product market fit. I mean, we have 2 startups reach product market fit the last 2 months, and you can see the graph. It's growing, and it's growing fast, and the market is pushing them. But just to give you an advice, what you should spend a lot of time on is on Mixpanel, and you should spend a lot of time in the retention tab here to understand, for instance, show me all the people who view one page of my site. So that's not a good event, but and you can see here the retention for this action, and it doesn't lie. Here you can see that if every week it's growing, and if you have someone, if people get more and more engaged, and of course you can use another tab about segmentation and see, for instance, payment, and you can see if you're growing. Are payment growing? You can see that. So spend a lot of time on retention, the retention tab and the segmentation tab.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question, which is, when you have product market fit, I heard you talk about revenue, which is what you said. Okay, one of the indicators of product market fit is people actually paying for your service. That's what he said. But what do you think about in terms of retention and revenue, when you compare these both, which do you think is more important for product market fit?
Between retention and what?
Revenue, because you spoke about revenue, but I don't think you spoke a lot about retention and the importance. So I was wondering what you think is more important, whether it's more retention or more revenue.
Okay, understand. It depends of your product. For instance, Snapchat at the beginning, they were looking at retention because no one could pay on the system. But I highly believe that retention is linked with revenue. If you can have an audience somewhere that's very engaged, you will find ways to monetize the audience. But of course, if you can have people pay or pre-order something, like on Kickstarter, that's a better indicator of product market fit. That's a great indicator of product market fit. I won't say it's better than retention, but it's telling something.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
Is there a difference between B2B and B2C in growth hacking?
Yeah, one very big difference I've seen is about the way you activate users. So, in B2B products, one way to activate user is about giving demos. It's about giving a demonstration of your product to someone. And that is why you have to have salesmen on your team in order to have people go, register on your product, giving them a demo at the beginning, at the traction phase, and then making them understand the value and activate, make them pay and try your product. So one example I really like, it's about Flatshare. For instance, if you try to register on Flatshare, your account won't be activated. They will send you an email 2 hours later saying, yes, your account is now ready. Are you ready for a little demonstration? And that is their way to create proximity with the user, to making understand by Skype or by a peer.en all the cool things you can do with their product for your own case, because every case is different. And that's the way for them to sell and to grow every week by giving demos. And that is why, if you want to scale, we have to scale by hiring people and by to have a sales force in order to give demonstration and sales. So, but for B2B, emailing is very powerful too. Cold emailing. You can try to check a blog I like about growth hacking, but growth hacking is a way of doing marketing. One difference between growth hackers and marketers is that we have a way we see at the funnel in an holistical way. We don't only focus on acquisition and activation, but also on retention, referral, and revenue. And that is why we have to know how to code, because we have to have an impact on the product. To increase retention, you often have to go on the code and to change little things in the product to make people understand what you're doing and making them come back. So close.io, so I have a great blog about cool things that you can do to sell more and to great technical. I recommend you check that blog, it's very cool. And another guy I like about cold emailing, I'll try to remember it. I've seen one of his speech, cold email, Udemy. Yes, Scott Britton, that's the guy. So he wrote one. He did one course on Udemy that's very great about cold emailing and how you can make them reply to your email and sell more. So his name is Scott Britton, and he's an expert on this kind of things. Yes.
I really like the canvas that you just showed. Thank you. I like the canvas, and so it's a great way to industrialize, test, and ideas, hypotheses, stuff like that. But where do you get your inspiration for the ideas and all the experiments that you do after?
So where do I get my ideas? There is one quote I really like. So in English, it's try by imitation and then move to innovation. So every morning, I have a routine. I go on GrowthHackers.com and I read the 2 first articles, only the 2 first, because there is too much articles on this plan. And I have one document, so it's about, I don't know, 70 pages now. It's very huge, and when I see something smart, I put it on the document. And one day I'm in a situation, and I remember about this guy who said something, and I say, "Oh yes, this can be an this could be an experiment." So it's my way of by imitation. I look at what people are doing, and I try to learn from them, and to get my ideas like that.
In the platform, you have the knowledge base, so it's for the startup, but can you exchange with other startups?
I'm not quite sure. I think you can invite people by clicking here. You can invite them, but you can't share cards to other people. Maybe you can share. So you have a URL, and if I open it in an incognito window, see, you can share the cards with other guys. And the aim is to have a way to quickly see what's working and what's not working. Time is limited, and you have to prioritize and focus on what's working. So one day, I heard someone saying that people were failing because they lack of focus and they fear failures. And one way of failing is because you lack of focus and you don't put your money and your time where you should put it. Ok, bah écoutez, merci à tous en tout cas, et puis j'espère que ça vous a plu.